rips one into the night, deep into right, way out.
Moves to the right, it goes directly to Clement. Clement reverses it, and the pass goes into the end zone.
To Nick Foles.
It's a touchdown by Nick Foles.
He scores! Keith Primo is able to win it, and the Flyers win the touchdown.
Can he get it off? Yes! And the Sixers win it!
What is going on, everybody? I am Jake. This is Bill. We are approximately 2/6 of Talkin 215 here
Part of it, yeah.
at Billy Pistol's Basement Saloon.
Gotta love it.
Here to talk some Philly sports. So we're off the bat. Want to shout out Big Oyster Brewing, Brewworks, Big Oyster Brewery. What are we going here?
Yeah, so it's Big Oyster Brewing. It's smallish brewery from Lewis, Delaware.
Shout out First State.
Yeah. They started in 2015. We are drinking their Hammerhead tonight. Hammerhead IPA.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful West Coast style India Pale Ale. That's what IPA stands for, Jake, if you didn't know. And it's their baby. We love it. They love it.
Yeah.
I hope you love it.
Yeah. I'm not a huge IPA guy, but I'm a fan.
Well, I'll crack on with you.
I am a fan of the Hammerhead.
And I sprayed it all over your computer.
That's quite all right. There we go.
Cheers, Jake.
So yes, shout out to Big Oyster. Thank you for supplying the wonderful brews for tonight. Obviously, we are going to be having Dr. Joseph Mesa. If anybody followed on our socials, you saw we're going to be having him on here shortly.
Very excited about that.
Going to be. We've had a lot of questions already thus far about injury updates and stuff to talk about with him. So really looking forward to having somebody with obviously the knowledge that he has come on the podcast, answer any questions. So if you have any questions for Dr. Mesa regarding any injuries, anything going on with Joel Embiid, with Jalen Hurts, Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Union, anybody, you name it, hit us in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, head on over to streamyard.com/Facebook and click allow. Sometimes there's weird issues where some of the comments don't all come through at once. And also if you're watching through Facebook, just go to streamyard.com/Facebook and click allow so your comments are all shown. I believe YouTube, Twitter go through no problem. But again, if they're not shown, the phone number will be coming up shortly. We're going to be opening the call line here after we speak with Dr. Mesa. But Bill, right off the bat, a lot of news to talk about pretty much all across Philadelphia.
Lots of stuff's been happening.
Yeah, new OC, new DC. We talked about that obviously in our recorded episode that we dropped this morning. So if you're a follower of the podcast or anything, you definitely want to check that episode out. It's on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a million other podcast apps. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
Get a real in-depth talk about the different X's and O's. Coach obviously everybody knows he knows football like not many else do. And so he really broke down exactly what you're going to be seeing with this Vic Fangio defense. Sean talked a lot about Kellen Moore and what he brings to the offense, how we had spoke multiple times about how this Philadelphia Eagles offense was probably the least quarterback-friendly offense in the NFL. And I believe adding Kellen Moore and what he brings to the table, and we're going to be talking a lot about that, is going to be talking, just showing how this is going to be a top 5 quarterback friendly offense, going from one of if not the least quarterback friendly to, I believe, a top 5 quarterback friendly offense.
Yeah, something where Hurts can thrive, not just survive. I mean, that's what we were doing for a lot of the first half of the season. We were winning 1-score games. Love to see it. Love to start 10-1. But when the
we all knew it wasn't sustainable.
No,
even when they were at 10-1, we were like, this isn't like they still have yet to have a complete game.
Yes. And we were saying, me and you were talking about that week 3, week 4. Every different piece of our team was firing at different times. We had the defense going. We had the offense going. We had the quarterback, our RPO going.
Yeah.
All in different phases.
Yeah, we never had a complete game where the defense, offense, every part of the team showed up. And so we knew at that point, like, hey, something's got to really start clicking. But you figured you play your best football come the end of the season. So that's why it was just such a head scratcher when we really started playing our absolute worst football come the end of the season. Obviously, a lot could be said about Matt Patricia taking over the defense, Sean Desai getting moved upstairs. And there's a whole lot of issues to really go on with that, but we've talked about that to death. I mean, they stunk. They sucked. It was the worst collapse that I can remember in modern history. So in my lifetime,
I don't think there's another.
I haven't seen a collapse in my lifetime that has been anywhere close to that.
To start off as on paper well as we did to how we finished.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the cracks as Eagles fans, as Philadelphia fans. We saw the cracks forming. We saw them getting bigger. But to see that ultimate collapse to that Tampa Bay playoff game when we mustered 3 field goals, we let Baker Mayfield have his pick of the litter.
Well, we had a touchdown when we missed the extra point, or we went for 2 and they illegally stopped it.
Oh, fair. Yeah, they
ripped Hurts' head off.
You know, it's just an implosion.
No, I mean, Coach said it. Kellen Moore is going to be such a breath of fresh air here. We talked so many times about, specifically with the blitz. It seemed like at least the last 4 games, the jig was up. They were like, hey, just blitz the Eagles heavily, and they're not going to be able to succeed. And so that's all you saw from teams. I mean, you saw the Giants in Week 18 blitz at 75%. Obviously, Wink Martindale, very aggressive defensive coordinator, and then the team over in the Bucs in the playoffs, they just blitzed every passing down, and there was nothing that we did to change it. I mean, Brian Johnson did an absolutely horrific job in giving Jalen Hurts any options against the blitz. So really, while Jalen Hurts regressed this year, all this bullshit you're hearing on 94 WIP about, who's more to blame, Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts, the coaching staff or Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not really anywhere near the top of that list for me.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like when he's getting blitzed and they know it's going to get blitzed and he's looking up and all he sees is asses and elbows from every single possible pass catcher. And he's being asked, do something. Like it's not on Jalen Hurts. While sure, he regressed in the sense that he had an MVP caliber season last year. And the only reason he didn't win was because he missed the 3 or 4 games towards the end of the season. Yeah. You're not going to be able to have that every single year. But there's a reason that following the Bills game, which was past the midpoint of the season, he was the MVP favorite. Yeah. So let's not act like he was having a bad year.
There was still a lot of hype. I mean, if you look at his stats, he wasn't playing poorly. He was playing very well given the circumstances.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of early on in the season, he would happen. We weren't a first half team to start the year.
Yeah.
But he would come out and he would throw 200 plus yards, rush for another 50, and get us back into that game, back in a winning position.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that Bills game was masterful.
Yeah.
I mean, our defense was doing next to nothing other than Jordan Davis chasing down, making his last solid play of the season, chasing down Josh Allen there. But it was just a battle, a heavyweight battle, back and forth pretty much the whole game long. And Jalen Hurts made a number of throws, made a number of drives that game that you were just like, yeah, that is the MVP of the NFL. Seemed to fall off from that point going forward for the rest of the season. But I blame a lot more I put a lot more blame on the coaching staff than I do Jalen Hurts.
Well, and at the end of the day, Jake, there's a reason that football rosters consist of 53 people.
Yeah.
There's a reason that you have so many different coaches. I mean, we have special assistants, we have strength coaches, we have all of these different people. It's not on Hurts. He is not the
is he blameless? No.
No, he's not blameless.
No, not at all.
But when you have an offensive coordinator who's installing this plan, who's not giving you any shot to make these plays that you're known for, is it your fault?
No, I mean, not entirely. Look, at the end of the day, he's the franchise quarterback. They paid him to be the franchise quarterback. And while I'm saying he's nowhere near the top to blame, I still have problems with him. He's not completely blameless in my mind. And I've already vocalized a lot of those. Like when he's sitting on the sideline in a losing game and he's sitting there just blank stare, no tablet in his hand. Like, I get it. People have been like, oh, well, the camera's not on him 24/7. Like, you don't know. Maybe he looked at the plays earlier. Maybe he talked to the guys earlier. Like, you've heard guys, Britton Covey came out and said, like, no, Jalen Hurts is the best leader I've ever been around. Yeah. And I'm sure he is a good leader. But just from an outside perspective, when I see the camera pan over to him and he's just stoic on the sideline, doing nothing, talking to nobody. You even had Dallas Goedert come over and kind of give a fiery. You don't know what he said, but they were getting fiery and he really didn't do anything. Like, yeah, I don't love that. But at the end of the day, he's my franchise quarterback. Yeah. He's shown that he has the capabilities and the abilities to just go nuclear on a team.
Absolutely.
And it's so much more on the coaching staff. So Kellen Moore, we're going from the dead last and not even close to second to last in pre-snap motion. Kellen Moore in the Chargers offense last year was 6th most in the NFL. Mm-hmm. People love to say that he's a real pass happy guy, and he really avoids the run. Almost every team that he has been the offensive coordinator on has been in the top 10 in rushing. Like not top 3, but top 10, which is fine by me. Well, I don't need to be number 1.
And it's also a little bit of confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that his teams are so successful in the pass game is because his schemes are so successful in other aspects of it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the tried and true. If you stack the box, you can't run. That means they're not worried about the pass, vice versa. And he has a very good balanced approach in how to extract every ounce of power out of an offense. We're taking pressure off of the run game to give it to the pass game. Then they're worried about the pass. Jalen Hurts is free to QB sneak it for 15 yards.
No, exactly. There's so many different things that come with it that they just really limited Jalen Hurts in this offense from what it could be, because you see the offense is at its best when he's running the ball effectively.
Absolutely. There's no question.
No more than 8, 9, 10 times a game. But when that's a realistic threat, the offense runs like nothing else. And I think Kellen Moore is going to be able to utilize every single thing. And you're going to see Devontae Smith used. I mean, he already had a phenomenal year. You saw his abilities. I mean, he had a good stretch there in the second half of the season where he was right there at, like, I think he had back-to-back games of 99 yards before he finally went over into the 100 yards and everything. But he's going to be utilized, I believe, a lot in the slot under this Kellen Moore offense. Mm-hmm. He's a dynamic route runner. His field awareness is unlike any wide receiver I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, how many times do you see him just know exactly where the sideline is and just toe tap it without ever even looking down?
He's such a good field awareness, such a presence. Yeah. And, I mean, being a wide receiver, too.
Yeah.
In our system. I mean, he's
a wide receiver 1 on a lot of teams.
Yes. But being our second receiver, he's never getting double covered.
It's tough. It's going to be tough to double cover anybody.
It's such a good offensive thing for us. And before we roll into defensive coordinator, I have one hot rumor for you. I'm sure you've seen this. A lot of people think that Saquon Barkley finds his way into Philadelphia next season.
No, let's go.
You don't want him. You don't think it's going to happen.
No, there's no situation in which Saquon Barkley is coming over Phil. I mean, I guess there is a situation in which he comes over to Philadelphia. And if anybody that's watching, hit us up in the comments on what you think they should do about Saquon. Is that somebody they should really entertain or anything? But I don't see a world in which they go after Saquon Barkley. I mean, look, they obviously have shown they don't really mind going after an older running back. We just brought in Rashad Healthy Scratch Penny, who played all of, I believe, 3 or 4 games, including the postseason. Yeah. Like they have no problem going after these guys. But with a draft class like they have this year, with them having 8 draft picks this year, with possibly even bringing back Swift, I don't even know if that'd be the best idea, just because we used him so poorly. I would love to have him back, but I have no idea if he'd really want to come back, just due to the fact that he was so underutilized and still had his career year under us.
That's the sell there, is with this new offensive coordinator, with this new scheme, does Swift believe that his utilization is going to increase? Can he make an impact?
Well, it would be tough to decrease it. There were plenty of games where we were just screaming, why are we not giving him the ball? So it'd be really difficult for them to decrease
6 rushes, 10 rushes.
Yeah,
7 rushes.
I call it the 12 carry Barry. Like if you don't break the 12 carry barrier, you're not a running. Like they're not trying to run the ball.
No.
If you need to have at least 25 rushing attempts combined between all of your players, and you need to have 1 rusher with at least 12 of those. And it didn't happen all that much. And this is obviously a skewed stat, because if you're running the ball more, odds are you're winning games, because when you're running the ball, you're likely trying to run the clock down and everything. But when Nick Sirianni runs the ball more than 34 times, he's something ridiculous like 19-2. And he's 3 games under 500 when he runs it under
stat, Jake.
But it's a little bit skewed.
The ball that much?
It's a little bit skewed with all that. With you're running the ball more when you're up and you're trying to run the clock down, which the Eagles putting the game on ice this year was like the Eagles' kryptonite. They had plenty of leads late in games where they were just unable to have that 6-minute drive that just completely put teams away. So obviously we talked about it at the beginning of the segment. We have Dr. Joseph Mesa from our friends over at Delaware Orthopedic Specialists to give some injury updates. We already have a lot of text-in questions about Philadelphia injuries. Dr. Mesa, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. We've missed you. Welcome back.
Oh, glad to be here. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, it is our pleasure. So we posed the question a couple hours ago to kind of get people going, and obviously anybody that's watching, I mean, you'd be washing and watching.
You could do both.
You can do both. Put any injury questions in the comments, and we'll be sure to get them over to the doc. But one question we got pretty much right off the bat was, how confident are you now that we are? I guess he had the surgery 1 week ago. How is there any kind of confidence level that Sidney Brown could be back week 1 of next season? That'd be early September. He had mid-January ACL reconstruction surgery. And is there any realistic opportunity where a guy his age, with the advancements in modern medicine and everything, that we could see Sidney Brown at the start of the season? Or would you more expect to see him week 4 through 8?
Well, anything is possible, as we see. I mean, the prime example is Adrian Peterson, who returned almost 6 months from his injury and lit up the league. But he was an extreme example. I think the expectation is anywhere between 6 and 9 months, so that puts him right around the start of the season. Now, obviously, he's going to have to pass certain protocols, but being with, the best trainers in the world, working daily with this, I mean, it's very reasonable, but I wouldn't, hang my hat on it necessarily, because more often than not, we're seeing return to sport at almost a year. But hopefully, I'd like to see him sooner, but obviously it's going to depend on how he recovers and how he gets his muscle function and his agility back.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. You're seeing, like you said, the freaks where they're back in 6 months, and then you see the realistic stuff we always expected, like ACL, you're out for a year.
Yeah.
That was kind of the old tried and true.
And it's you hope it doesn't happen late in the season, but there's athletes that are coming back a lot quicker.
Yeah.
I mean, to parlay this very quickly.
Cam Akers 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, you have Bryce Harper and his modified Tommy John surgery. Everyone thought.
Well, he's a cyborg.
He is. And then we're hoping Sidney Brown is as well, so we can have him back.
No, exactly. So, Doc, apparently this was common knowledge, as I was told that I was a absolute moron for even questioning why Sidney Brown waited 4 weeks to get an ACL surgery. Asking a lot of people, it didn't seem like it was all that common knowledge. But for the people that may be like me and did not realize that you need to wait a certain amount of time, what are the main reasons why he didn't get that surgery, let's say 3 days after week 18, when it was, when the injury occurred?
Yeah, I deal with this almost on a daily basis. I mean, the expectation is I'm hurt, fix me, and ideally that would be the ideal scenario.
If anybody could, you could.
Yeah, you get hurt on a Sunday, you get surgery on a Monday. And you see that sometimes in the NFL, depending on the injury. But the reason being is when you have an injury to your ACL, you have damage and local trauma, and your body is in what we call trauma mode, which means it's fighting off trauma. And guess what surgery is? Another form of trauma. So if you do it too soon, what happens is we see in these athletes and just regular people that have this surgery, they get an increased risk of stiffness, loss of motion, and then you struggle in your rehab to get it back to where it needs to be. And what we found and what the Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons recommends is giving it some time to get out of that trauma sequence. And the sweet spot for doing this surgery is realistically between 1 and 3 months. For an athlete, closer to 1 month, which is about the time frame in which it was done. So I think the surgeons that did it at an appropriate time. You get the swelling out, you manage to work those muscles, because keep in mind, when you have an injury, the important factor is your muscles shut down. So you have to allow time. And we do what we call prehab, where we rehab these guys before surgery so that the recovery is easier and the muscle gets the muscle function returns much more quickly. And I think that's the reason. And that's typically the recommendation we do now. This is not a rush and get it done tomorrow surgery.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
So, Doc, I have got to piggyback off of that question. We see Darius Slay, who played through injury, and he delayed his surgery to kind of see what was going on. Part of that is probably the 1 to 3 months. Is there a risk factor, an elevated risk factor, if you delay it too long? Or Shohei continuing to pitch and needing the surgery, is there an expiration date on that, or you can just kick that can down the road as long as you can perform?
Well, Slay's wasn't an ACL, but
no,
right. But even so, the presumption is he had a meniscal tear or a cartilage injury. I'm not exactly sure what Slay had, but there is a risk. Every time you go out there, you can damage the knees. And I tell people that when they get their initial injury, presumably you got their injury when they were at 100%. And now they're entering games at less than 100%. No matter how good an athlete they are, they're still walking around or running around or throwing with an injury. And the likelihood to increase the severity of that injury is very, very high. Sometimes it's a gamble worth taking, and you can wait till the end of the season for some of these injuries, but they're being closely monitored. And if there's any signs that those symptoms are worsening, then they have to step in and say, okay, this is not safe. This is not smart. Let's take care of it no matter what what the season is doing at that point. And I think a lot of times that happens. I mean, Embiid had a knee surgery, and I think they tried to push it as far as they could, but eventually your performance lacks and you run the risk of getting a worse injury. And yes, these injuries can become more severe.
Yeah. So Doc, kind of sticking with the severity of injuries, it feels as though in the past couple of years, we felt some kind of a shift where even if this was more severe, it was always like, oh, ACL is the worst. Mm-hmm. And now you're seeing in the NFL the past couple of years that it's really like this Achilles has been much, it seems more prevalent, and it seems like it's a harder recovery. And they like you heard Ryan Howard talked about it, and you heard guys like they never fully recover that same amount of. Yeah. No, exactly. That same explosiveness. So we had a question that said, this is, it's a little morbid, but what are the 3 worst injuries that we could really look for in football? What's the big 3 you want to avoid at all costs? As far as recovery length goes, and as far as actually being able to return to 100%.
That's got to be number 1.
Well, yeah.
I said, let's take the spine stuff out of there because obviously they're the worst. So broken neck, paralysis, all that stuff. But I would say in terms of the extremities, we'll stick to the extremities. The worst extremity injury that I can think of for a football player is a hip dislocation, which happened to Bo Jackson. That's a terrible injury. And, and Tua had one with a fracture and he's doing surprisingly well, but that is a horrible injury because you run the risk of killing the blood supply to your hip. And it ruined one of the best athletes of all time's career, basically. So that to me is one of the very, very serious injuries that I really worry about. The other one that I think is really bad is a multi-ligament knee injury. So ACL plus. Carson Wentz. ACL plus LCL. ACL, which is the lateral collateral ligament. ACL plus a medial collateral ligament. A knee dislocation. A knee dislocation is an extremely serious problem because not only do you risk injury to the ligaments, but you risk serious nerve injury and vascular injury. There was a tight end from Chicago that was in New Orleans and dislocated his knee. I forget his name, but and that was a serious. He could have lost his leg from that.
Yeah, at the time, they thought that they were actually going to have to amputate.
Yeah. Correct. That is a nightmare. That's a nightmare. Another serious injury for football players. You're only giving me 3, right? So I'll do 3 in the lower extremity.
3 max.
The 3 worst.
So the other one that I really worry about, which we are getting much, much better at dealing with, is the Liz Frank injury in the foot.
Yeah.
Because that one gets you. And if you don't treat it appropriately, and if you're not accurately or sufficiently aggressive with it from the beginning, that's another career ender right there. And there's probably countless guys in the 70s and in the 80s whose careers ended on what seemed like an innocuous foot sprain. But that's not recognizing the severity of that injury. So for football,
so I want to ask real quick. We have the Alex Smith, obviously.
Oh yeah,
brutal. Dak Prescott seemed to suffer a similar.
I mean, in the sense that it was an open fracture. I mean,
yes,
and Alex Smith's was
horrendous.
I mean, there's a reason why, like comeback player of the year, because they also thought he may have to lose his leg.
Yeah, they were talking about amputating it, and so when obviously the severity is different, but when you see Dak who breaks his leg, or Nick Chubb this year is a perfect example. Brutal. In your professional opinion, what do you think he can get back to? Not his former self, but to NFL level dominant RB1 or QB1. Do you think that it's going to just kind of chip away at it as you get older and it takes longer to heal? I mean, those are tough to come back from.
I can tell you from experience with trauma and sports is sometimes the worst looking injuries are not the worst long-term outcomes. So
Okay.
something can look absolutely horrendous. Remember the guy, I hate to put these little examples, but I think it was a guy from Louisville, basketball player, broke his tibia in the Final Four.
Yep.
It looked awful.
Straight through his shin. Yeah.
Yep. Willis McGahee, horrible looking injury, right? And what happened to Willis? That happened in college, and he had a long, successful career. So a lot of these injuries that look horrible to most people, including myself, can be treated. The key elements are if they get treated appropriately, if fractures heal, and in young athletes, I would rather deal with treating in many cases a fracture versus a horrible sprain, because once the bone heals, it's healed. It's the soft tissue that causes recurrence and problems. So I think, the injury of Alex Smith, if it was treated maybe a little bit differently, a little bit more cautiously, his outcome would have been different. His problem was he got infected.
Yeah.
And the bone took time to heal.
And they had to transplant a thigh into the calf.
Yeah. All that stuff came from, the subsequent infection. And I think that a lot of fractures, if they're done appropriately, and, there's great doctors doing these surgeries all over the country. And if they do them in the right way, they can recover. Eventually what happens, I think, in most athletes is it's just all the injuries pile up on each other, and they just, you don't bounce back as quickly the second time you get hurt or the third time you get hurt. Your body, only has so much juice in the tank. But I mean, some of these injuries that look bad, these fractures, if they're treated appropriately, and they should heal because of the athlete being in good condition, and usually they can recover like Dak did.
Yeah. Yeah. So last question that we have had message to us, based on the landing and the contact on his leg, what kind of severity of injury in your opinion, do you think Joel Embiid sustained? Is it something that they're being more cautious about just because of him being 7'2" and almost 300 pounds and his long history? Or is this something that, we should not expect to see Joel for, an extended period of time?
It depends. I mean, obviously caution is a factor. I mean, you want to make sure that he's good for the long run. I mean, he's obviously had issues with his health throughout his career, and particularly coming towards the end of the season. So I think saving him up now and really assessing this and seeing what kind of damage it is, I don't think it's too severe, but you never know with guys like that. I mean, and he's had a history. I think that was the knee he had surgery on. So I don't know what's going on inside his knee to begin with. These guys are pounding their knees, and it's tough. So I think a big element of this is caution. They want to make sure there's nothing bad going on. But I mean, I think this is one where I think he's going to struggle with things like this because he plays hard, and, he puts a pounding on his body, and that's something we have to deal with, and he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his career.
No, for sure. Awesome. Well, Doc, I really appreciate the time, and obviously the knowledge and insight is second to none. And that's just a little snippet of the knowledge and insight that they offer over at Delaware Orthopedic Specialists. You see the ticker at the bottom. You can go to delaortho.com or 302-655-9494. Schedule a consult appointment today or tomorrow.
And I have personally had a surgery done over there, so
Excellent.
I will definitely recommend. They do great work.
Oh, yeah. We've had tons of people reach out.
Love hearing from Doc. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we are very thankful to have Dr. Mesa and all of our friends over at Delaware Orthopedic Specialists to be able to give us an insight and answer any questions that you all have with injuries. So we're going to go ahead and open up the call-in line. So if you have any thoughts on the new coaches, on injuries, on Sixers, Flyers, Phillies, I'll do my best to answer union questions or anything like that. Go ahead. You see the number at the bottom, 302-540-4492. Go ahead, call in, give your thoughts, give your takes on anything and everything Philadelphia. But Bill, Dr. Mesa, pretty insightful stuff.
Yeah. No, I love to hear that piece of it because, as he said, the things that look the worst to us on TV may not be the worst. You can come back from that. You can heal from that.
Yeah.
We're looking at a grown man's shin sticking through his flesh, and here he is, 4 or 5 months later, walking around, running, training.
No, exactly.
That's great insight. Whereas these soft tissue issues,
yeah, you never get that same amount like that.
yeah,
That it's just it never really fully recovers. You hear people say it all the time. It's just like that's why you hear like people say, "Oh, you know, an ankle fracture is a lot better than a sprain in a lot of senses."
True. And you know, I'm 5'10" on a good day. I don't know how tall you are, Jake. I think I'm a little bit.
Got a little bit on me.
But I'm not 7'2". I'm not 7'6".
Yeah, you're not 290.
Exactly. And these athletes are having very different forces put on their body. Joel Embiid is a big, tall guy and a beefy specimen.
No, exactly.
So the torsion that's going side to side for him, what's happening is very different from me and you swinging.
It's a lot of weight coming down on that leg when he's landing awkwardly.
And they're sprinting that court 200 times a night. Me and you are lifting a beer up and swinging a golf club.
12-ounce curls, baby.
Right? So, you know, understanding that perspective, that insight that he has, Dr. Mesa, it's just so good to get that different, you know, let's give these athletes a little breath. Let's not pressure them back onto the court, back onto the field, back onto the ice.
No, I mean, he sees it both, like he said, you know, directly following the injury, he performs the surgeries himself. And then obviously, you know, post-op and following up with the patient with rehab and everything, he sees that kind of recovery, and they're doing work with athletes on a daily basis. I mean, they'll do like the average Joe just somehow. I had a buddy who tore his ACL mowing the grass. Yeah. You know, just took an awkward step. So like they'll do this as well, but he sees.
I had a friend working an office job, tear ACL. Yeah. Just got up, twisted, bam.
It can be a very fluky thing. Yeah. And so obviously he's seen the recovery from, you know, the average Joe to, you know, high-end athletes, and knows exactly what we should really be expecting. But again, injuries and recovery is a very, you know, it's a very fluid thing. You never know exactly what you're going to get. No recovery is ever completely the same. So it's hard to be like, yep, he will be 100% in 9 months. You know, expect him to, like, no, hey, in my opinion, this is what I've seen. This is what we've really come to expect. So we're going to go over to Florida and speak with David from Florida. David, it is a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
It's going fine. Thanks for having me.
No, we greatly appreciate the time. So obviously we just got off with Dr. Mesa talking a lot of injuries. Before that, we were talking a lot of things with the new OC DC. Is there any particular team, any particular coach, or anything you really want to talk about?
Let's talk Eagles.
Hell yeah.
Go Birds.
Go Birds, baby. What are we thinking? How you feel about the new hires?
I feel pretty good about the new hires. I'm still trying to figure out what happened to the Eagles in the last 7 games and how we went from 10-1 to lose 6 of the last 7. I can understand it at the college level, but I really don't understand it at the professional level. And I don't get as much news down here in Florida. Can you shed some light on how we lost 6 of the last 7?
Well, in my opinion, what was going on week 1 was the same thing that was going on in week 18. It just took the NFL a little bit longer to really figure out, hey, how is it exactly that we beat the Eagles? Because you could see that they were beatable.
Yeah, I mean, the fissures were forming.
Yeah.
It just took people a little bit of time to catch on, see what's happening.
But once that tape once the blueprint got out there,
Absolutely.
The Eagles did very little to adjust to it. And so once it was out there, like, hey, you can run on this team, and on defense, if you blitz this team, you're going to win. You can easily win the time of possession battle, and then you can easily eliminate this offense and have your offense playing against a gas defense when you're out there for 40 minutes.
Forever.
By just doing these 3 simple things. And the Eagles did a terrible job in adjusting to it.
And it feels like our offense week 1 and our offense week 18 ran the same series of plays.
Yeah.
We fed the same people. So the defense
everything outside the hashes, wide receiver
screens. Who they could shut down. They knew who they could leave open and who they could leave unaccounted. We just didn't adjust.
So how, if we didn't adjust at the professional level, how does Sirianni keep his job?
Well, so the big thing here is Sirianni is our captain in chief. When we change a couple of pieces, we need one stable piece. Would you rather Belichick come in here and ride it out for a year and a half? Would you rather send the message to the locker room that we're going to fire Sirianni, we're going to take a passive Vrabel, and then we end up with like Arthur Smith? You know.
So did Sirianni have, in your opinion, did he have any input in the hiring of the OC DC?
I don't think Sirianni gets much of a vote on this.
No, I mean, I feel as though they made it pretty clear in that postseason interview with Howie and Nick that they were going to be bringing changes. And I feel as though once they said that whoever was coming in to take over the offense, that it would be their offense. At that point, it's kind of saying like Nick doesn't have a say in it, because why would he really have a say in like, hey, they're going to come in and do their own offense. Who do you think we should pick? No, at that point, it's not Nick's offense. He's just, taking over a lot of names that you've heard is a Mike Tomlin, a Harbaugh, where they're more of the CEO type.
Exactly.
And look, like Jason Kelce obviously is completely loved and beloved in this entire city and locker room and by his teammates, coaches, and everything. And he obviously has a very successful podcast. And he was talking just this past week how in his career, he hasn't ever had a coach like Sirianni just being able to know exactly what to do situationally, what buttons to push, just his finger on the pulse of the team. And he said a bunch of other things that, like, look, the average fan, the average WIP caller, listener, they're like, yeah, we're going to get pissed off and we're going to sit here and be like, Sirianni lost the team. They don't even know what they're doing out there. They don't give a shit about him or anything. I think Jason Kelce has a much better idea than any of us.
I think he does, yeah.
What's going on there. And then you saw the same thing with Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. I mean, Fletcher Cox almost slapped Jeff McClain when he brought up, hey, what are your thoughts about these rumors that Nick might lose his job? He called him a clown and told him to shut up.
Well, so there were problems, for sure. But the rumor mill was working overtime. When the Eagles started to implode, everyone's saying culture this or A.J. Brown that. All of this happens, right? We need to trust that the people who are important and are making these decisions are empowered to do so. And scaling your head coach back. I mean, think about all of the head coaches and all their responsibilities. If we can just get you to be Nick Sirianni, lead the culture of this team. You've been here for, this will be his fourth year. So you've been here for a while. He's
taking the postseason every season.
Yeah.
And he's been the coach.
We haven't had a losing season under him.
No.
So are you really that mad at Sirianni, or can we just pin Brian Johnson to the cross and say, this is all your fault?
Well, no, I mean, he obviously holds some blame. The biggest thing that it came down to was he was in pretty much the same boat that Doug Peterson was in that exit interview following the season, where Doug wasn't going to lose his job until they said, hey, this didn't work. We let you use your guys, and it didn't work. We need to change it up. And apparently Doug really stood his ground and said, no, I'm bringing back my guys. We're running it back.
Yeah.
And they said, all right, well, then you can kick rocks.
Yeah. I mean, and that's that flexibility.
Yeah. And when Nick Sirianni, it seemed as though he was much more flexible to it and said, look, I understand, and it seemed like there was a lot of, somber moments throughout the locker room once they did have to let go of Brian Johnson, a guy that's been in the system for a few years now, and Sean Desai, a guy that some players really felt got scapegoated. But he was like, look, I understand we didn't perform.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm willing to do that. And that's what really kept his job. But he is on thin ice.
He is. There's definitely guardrails in place.
Yep.
And for the lower downs, that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Yep.
I mean, sometimes you've worked a job before where you got all the shit pinned on you.
Yeah.
It happens. But there's no other option there.
No.
Well, I know you've talked OC and DC already, so I won't overtalk that, but I'm pretty excited about Kellen Moore. I think he did a great job with the Cowboys. I think he gets a mulligan or a pass for his San Diego time, but I think he's a really, really good hire. I'm not as thrilled with Vic Fangio, but I'm willing to give him a chance, and I think both of those are upgrades from what we had before. So I think the Howie Rosen and the staff did a pretty good job of filling those positions with quality guys.
No, for sure. And
well, it sounds like Dave echoes my don't hire a former former head coach sentiment here. Like I'm low on Fangio. And this is another challenge point. This is your curveball, Jake. The Dolphins paid a heavy price for tampering with him last year. They paid a first-round pick and didn't retain him.
Well, that wasn't with Fangio. They paid a first-round pick or attempting to tamper to get Tom Brady. Maybe I'm mistaken. Was it Fangio?
Yeah. So Fangio was a special consultant, and then we promoted him to defensive coordinator for the Super Bowl.
Well, no, he was never defensive coordinator for the Super Bowl.
Well, he was play caller.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
Vic Fangio did not call the defense in the Super Bowl for the Eagles.
Last year, yeah. He did.
No, he did not.
All right.
You are mistaken.
Agree to disagree.
No, it's a fact.
But he was he was in talks.
He was involved with the preparation and everything.
So the Dolphins lost a first-round pick, and then they cut him loose a year later. That's a heavy price to pay to not keep a guy. Yes, cut your losses, but then we're going to take him back. We're going to do this. Why?
Well,
best candidate available. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm gonna get into all that before I do, Dave, thank you so much for calling. Before we let you go, what is the greatest sports movie of all time?
Greatest sports movie
In your
of
opinion.
all time is the one about the U.S. Olympic hockey team winning the gold medal with Herb Brooks.
There we go. Miracle. That's a solid answer.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Well, Dave, we appreciate you calling in.
Hey,
I
love
appreciate the
you
time.
guys. Love your show, and thanks for taking my call.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
thanks, Dave. Keep watching in Florida.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, so I'm going to talk to you a lot about Vic Fangio and what's going on there, and I'll tell you. I'll start right off the reason why he was let go in Miami is because they've got a bunch of just lazy assholes on their team, and they had a lot of players that were really clashing with him because he's not that. Oh yeah, breeze go by.
No,
just
he's a
coach.
hard-nosed.
He's a hard-nosed coach.
65, 66.
Yeah, he's a weathered, proven veteran coach, and he expects and demands greatness out of you. And you have a lot of guys on that Miami Dolphins team that just wanted to loaf about, not really give it all. Obviously, South Beach is a fun place to be, and they did not like that. And players were really coming out there and talking a lot of crap about him. And obviously, you're not going to go and cut a bunch of players. You're going to get rid of the coach that they don't like. And so they decided to part ways with him due to a lot of different, differences that they had with play calling and with the players on the team and everything. And so they decided, we're just going to cut our losses, get rid of him, bring somebody else in that, connects a little bit better with the players and everything. But he still got a ton out of that Dolphins defense. I mean, they had injuries.
I mean, they were playing well.
They had injuries all across their entire defense. And as Coach said yesterday, they were third in pressure percentage, and they weren't overly a blitz-heavy team. I mean, in the true Vic Fangio defense, which is predominantly going to be a 3-4, the best thing with that is you can just disguise your pressures where it's coming from. And Coach talked about it. We have a clip on our socials out there on Twitter if you want to look at it, where he does things that just really make quarterbacks think, where he can run a cover 8, where one half of the field is a cover 6, where it's quarters, halves. The other half of the field is a cover 2. And so they look to their right, they see one thing. They expect to look to the left and see the same thing, just mirrored on both sides. Because right now, every defense we've been in, when it's man with James Bradbury, it's man with Darius Slay. When it's zone with one, it's zone with the other. The nice thing that Fangio does is he's willing to have one side of the field be zone, the other side of the field be man, really kind of disguise a lot of different pressures. The Eagles, I feel they're a few linebackers away from being able to run a 3-4 incredibly well. Obviously, we have no linebackers right now. But no, Vic Fangio, I think, is going to be a big step in the right direction for this team. We just definitely need Howie to go out and do his job and bring players to go out there and perform, because right now, obviously, we don't have those players.
Well, I will wait with bated breath.
That's fine.
Fangio
I'm not
pass.
saying like I'm 100%. He's the man. It's going to be a perfect.
I guess I'll give him an asterisk, the head coach thing. I mean, it was Broncos with Drew Lock, and it was COVID.
And he made it clear, like
post-COVID.
And he made it clear he's not a head coach.
No,
he's made it clear he's not a head coach. He doesn't want to be a head coach.
But I think the big thing with Fangio is that he needs somebody. He needs to not be the main guy.
Yeah,
because it's an older person. We got another caller.
Oh yeah, we got Marissa all the way over from Tokyo.
Marissa, welcome.
We are international with our shows here. Marissa, it is a pleasure to have you on tonight. And I guess in the morning for you. Oh, sorry. Forgot to put that. Oh, go ahead. There we go. Sorry about that. You're good. That was my bad.
Can you hear me okay?
We hear you better now. I was on me.
Perfect.
Yep. Well, thanks for having me on. Welcome to the world of tomorrow. It is a Thursday early afternoon here. Welcome to the future. Still stinks.
Awesome. What's the temperature there? Because it's currently a balmy 32?
30, yeah, 33, 32.
Yeah. So I hope it's warmer there in the future.
Actually, it is. We're actually, traditionally for February, this is actually quite strange. We actually have 60-degree weather, which is usually not normal this time of year in Japan. It's on the cloudy side, but unusually warm. So we're quite lucky here.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice. I know our co-host Chris just came back from the land of the rising sun, and he greatly appreciated.
I'm so
He messaged.
sorry we couldn't meet up.
I know. He was disappointed, but he understood. But he was very thankful for the advice you gave him on things to do and everything with that. So he was very thankful for that.
Well, my advice, everybody, whoever wants to know more about Japan or celebrate Eagles in Tokyo, you all know where to find me.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. We were hanging out over at Citizens Bank Park, and next time we'll be over at Nakatomi Plaza. I mean, that was actually in New York, but it's Japanese sounding.
Yeah, I was hoping to make a trip to Vegas, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Trust me, I just refunded my hotel.
You book that.
You book them refundable. You pay $50 cancellation fee, and you get your money back. And
I know. My dad's got a timeshare in Vegas, and we were hoping to use that timeshare for the Super Bowl, but that's not going to happen. Ugh.
No, unfortunate. What do you feel as though is the main reason why that didn't happen for the Eagles this year? What do you feel went wrong?
I'm going with just horrible organized coaching. First, we were all about, Sean Desai, and then he got demoted, got put up to the top, and then we tried to have Matt Patricia. It was just bad communication. We made no adjustments in place when it was needed. We just made it so easy and predictable for everybody. And for us to just end this way, especially after being in the Super Bowl last year, it just breaks my heart as an Eagles fan.
Yeah. No, it was brutal just how we kept waiting for something to change. We kept waiting to be like, hey, look, we're losing the same way every week. Like, they're gonna blitz us. What are we gonna do to defend it? They're gonna run against us. What are we gonna do to defend it? And they just kept on trying to do the same exact thing every week with quarterback draws when it's an empty backfield. You got wide receiver screens and then deep shots down the sidelines, nothing in the middle of the field, and nothing ever changed. And it was just so frustrating to watch because it was the same things that we saw through the first 11 weeks of the season. It just finally caught up to us.
Well, and it's
the attitude, the attitude didn't help either.
Yeah.
Like I was not happy with just like how Sirianni just blew it off. It's like, okay, we're in the playoffs, right? That's not good enough. That's like Marie Antoinette telling people, let them eat cake. You don't tell that to Philly fans. We know what to expect from our Eagles team.
Yeah.
Just winning by the skin of our teeth is nothing to brag about. I mean, if we really think about it, most of the games really were just by the skin of our teeth or just pure luck. And, and it just hurts. And it again breaks my heart because now everybody again is just saying us, oh, look, typical Eagles, fluke. It's just, it's appalling.
No, exactly. Especially after there's so many excuses made last year where all of the non-Philadelphia fans were like, oh, they rode an easy schedule and an injured playoff run all the way to the Super Bowl. They weren't that talented. No, we were the second best team in the NFL and really should have been the victors of that.
By a very close margin, too.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. And it's insane.
And then we ran the gauntlet this year. We went 10-1 against the tough teams with
a
mediocre scheme.
Exactly, with an extremely
We finally
vanilla
beat Andy Reid. We finally beat
coming out of a
Reid.
bye, nonetheless.
And trust me, I was there in that rain, that cold.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm not gonna lie. When we beat Andy Reid, I just took it. That's it. We're going to the promised land.
Oh yeah.
To beat Andy Reid, I thought this is it. This is like this is what certified us for greatness, and to just
take that big
like
step back, and that's the last good win that we had.
Yeah,
it wasn't even a good win, but it was a.
No, I mean it was an impressive win. We
win.
shut them out in the second half in the Arrowhead. They did what they had to do. They came out victorious. No, Marissa, I was with you. I thought that was the big point coming out of the bye, where Andy Reid is historic. They go into Kansas City, the Super Bowl rematch, emotions high, and they go out there and handle business against the Super Bowl defending Chiefs. Like, I thought that was the big jump off point, where it was like, man, we were good, but now we are elite, and we are going to carry this all the way through. Yeah. All season, I had guaranteed a win against the Niners.
I mean, we squeaked that Chiefs win out, and coming into that Niners game, I was confident.
Oh yeah,
and we got crushed.
Who wasn't?
No, exactly. We were tired of hearing all the crap they were talking all off season.
Oh, it's Brock
players were
Purdy
ready
being
for it.
Injured. They invented a whole new rule because of the Niners and the NFC Championship, and then here they just sit us down on home turf.
Exactly, in Philadelphia.
I almost bought tickets to that game. I almost wasted $400 on that. Glad I didn't.
Marissa, what are your thoughts on the new coaches that the Eagles hired? You happy with the decisions?
I'm really happy for whatever. I mean, we'll see what happens come next game day, but I'm not going to overstress myself and assuming all that is lost.
Don't worry, me and Jake will stress for you.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm just gonna keep an open mind. I'm gonna stay positive, and I'm very excited. My two biggest excitements is Vic and the D-line coach Clint Hurt. Oh my God, I just there's something. I swear to God, I think what happened is that when Howie was looking for a D-line coach, Clint showed up and it's like, I'm hired. And Howie was just like, yes, you are.
Yes, you are. And now that's one of the benefits of bringing in a veteran like Vic, a well-respected guy like Fangio, is the coaches that come with him. The coaches that he can bring. That's one of the really underspoken about perks of having a guy like Vic manage your defense.
There's a whole tree that he can tap into.
Exactly.
And they're willing to take a strength position.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was the defensive coordinator the past 2 seasons in Seattle, and now he's the defensive line coach. But he gets to really mold Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham's hopefully he can come back on a team-friendly deal for his final year. Obviously not molding him, but he gets to work with Philly legends and really gets to – and Milton Williams obviously showed a lot in the second half of the season that he could be ready for a takeoff.
Culture. I mean, Fangio is older. He's got his way of doing it. And it's up to Sirianni
that's good. I want wisdom. I think we do need more wisdom. I'm all for it.
No, I like that they went out and got proven guys rather than got up-and-comers. It was nice. You've kind of seen that a little bit around the NFL this season, where you got guys like Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick both returning to their teams rather than obviously people really thought Ben Johnson was the guy that the Commanders had really honed in on, but you're seeing around the league some guys are choosing the more proven guy. And then but also kind of hypocritically, you got Belichick, Vrabel, and Carroll all out there for the picking, and none of them have even really been touched.
How many downs did Doug Peterson coach before he was hired with the Eagles?
As far as a head coach, I mean, none.
Yes, sir.
As an offensive coordinator, Andy Reid gave him the second half of a lot of games.
Yeah.
Head coach, 0?
Yeah. Oh,
Super Bowl 1?
Exactly. Marissa, what is the greatest sports movie of all time?
How about Disney's Invincible?
It's a good movie. Shout out.
Invincible? Yeah, with
That's a good
yeah,
movie.
for
It's a good movie.
It's a damn good movie. Mark Wahlberg, Vince Papale, love it. Well,
yep,
Marissa,
legend, man. Go Birds.
oh yeah, we
Go
greatly
Birds.
appreciate the call. Enjoy your tomorrow, or our tomorrow,
Yep.
your today, and
Yep.
And we're looking forward to hearing you on the podcast a little bit more.
All right. Thanks, guys. Arigato. Go Birds.
arigato. International audience here at Talkin 215. Good stuff.
Transition to Flyers.
Sure.
All right.
All-Star break could not have come at a better time for the
Yes.
Fly guys. Losers of 5 straight. Just really seems like they're just kind of lost out there, really struggling to get things going. Luckily, they started off so well that they put themselves with a little bit of a cushion.
Yeah.
But the East is an extremely tight division. And
Well, starting out this year, there was very little hope that
Yeah.
we even were
No, of
sniffing a
course.
playoff spot. We are holding a playoff spot right now. It's ours to lose. So, as far as this season goes, it's a success. Like, I can rule this as a success already.
yeah.
But I would like to see them go. I'd like to see the new kids dance because
Yeah.
this is a young team. We need playoff experience. You've seen it across multiple different football, for baseball, for hockey, for basketball, for all sports. You can't take a rookie team deep into the playoffs and expect them to be disciplined in a multi-game series.
No.
And that's how hockey works. It's best of 7.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's one of
I-
the reasons what makes NHL playoffs the best playoffs in professional
yeah,
sports.
like I need your absolute best for probably 7 games. Best case scenario for.
Yeah.
These kids don't know what they're doing.
No, I mean, they don't have that winning culture instilled in them just because they're up and coming. But you hear a lot of guys say the vibes in the locker room are immaculate. That's been a big word they've been using. And look, they're just lucky they're in the Metro, because if they were not in the Metro, they would be the first team out of the wild card.
Yeah.
They'd still be right there, but both wild card teams actually have more points than the Flyers.
Yeah.
But the Flyers are sitting at 56 points, a little bit over halfway through the season.
Yeah.
They are not going to play again until Tuesday, February 6th. So they still have a number of games there, but they're going to be getting right off break against another tough opponent in the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Panthers are a very good team.
Yeah, real good team. Right now, they are sitting at 66 points in the Atlantic Division. 66 points that would lead the Metropolitan Division. It's second place only because the Bruins are in that division with them. So it's going to be a tough matchup, right? Coming right out of the break. It's a game where they've really let position slide. Losers of 5 straight.
Yeah,
need to come out firing. Hopefully, we get a little bit better play out of Samuel Urson. Coming out of the break, he's had a lot of really, really bright moments throughout the season. Little slide as of late, so hopefully he can rebound.
And so, Jake, here's the sad part, the elephant in the room that we should address. It's Carter Hart.
Yeah, Carter Hart. If people, longtime listeners of the pod, will know, we were on this over a year ago. That with this situation revolving around Hockey Night in Canada and the Canadian World Junior team back in 2018 appears to be involved in the situation going on over there.
The Canadian Junior Hockey scandal, if we're calling it that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So nothing has been officially stated that his name officially put on all of this, but obviously you can read the tea leaves, the writing on the wall, when he and 4 other players requested indefinite leave of absences from their teams, and then 2 days later Canadian law enforcement requested that 5 players, unnamed players, that they surrender themselves to Canadian law enforcement. You're kind of like, okay, these guys were all on the Canadian junior team. These guys had been rumored to be a part of it.
So Talkin 215 is not going to cover allegations. We're not going to speculate.
I'll just put it out this way.
We will say
our stance is the same stances that we had with Deshaun Watson. When it was obvious that he was guilty in that situation, but they just didn't have enough tangible stuff to prove it. We very outwardly said, screw that guy. We want nothing to do with him. I had said I cannot wait for the Eagles to play them next season because I hope Hassan Reddick and Jalen Carter absolutely destroy that man.
Dog pile the shit out.
That does not change for Carter Hart. That does not change for a Philadelphia athlete. Well, again, innocent until proven guilty. If there is any shed of truth to this, he deserves to be jailed. He deserves to never play another period of professional hockey.
Well, and from all of us at Talkin 215, our heart goes out to the victims of the situation.
Of course.
I mean, whether or not charges are filed, whether or not anything comes of it,
it's
a bad situation.
If there's truth behind this, it's awful and it's reprehensible, and that's pretty much where it's left at.
Transitioning into, we're losing our all-star goalie.
Only by name. He was having a very bad season
this year, but so we have Erison. Do we have someone in the pipelines? And that's where we're really going with this.
They've got a few players out there. I haven't done enough research to really know exactly who they have in their goalie prospects, but obviously Erson's younger than Carter Hart.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear Fedotov is ever going to be able to come over from Russia. He was a guy that had a lot of promise, but he's been stuck over there for a long time with no real inclination that he's going to be able to come back anytime soon. Or at all.
Well, and parlaying this, that's worrying for Michkov.
Yeah. Well, now it's a little bit different situation. Michkov it's been pretty clear that his end goal is NHL for a while.
Yes, it is, but they can block it. They can stop it. I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean they can do whatever they want.
Michkov in 2 years?
In 2 years, Michkov will be a Philadelphia Flyer. He will be in the States playing and everything. Obviously, they let him come over to do all the NHL, draft interviews.
Yeah, he was there. Threw the sweater
exactly. So it's nothing new. He's going to be the next big Russian NHL player.
Yep.
If anything, it'll just kind of take some positive lights on Russia when they really desperately need it right now. I certainly think Michkov is going to come over and play as a Philadelphia Flyer in 2 years. The big thing is, we're just going to see what kind of player we get, because obviously there's a lot of question marks. He obviously interviewed terribly. Apparently he had his mind completely set on, I want to be a Flyer and a Flyer alone. Yeah. And so he really reportedly tanked a lot of the other pre-draft interviews. They said there was a lot of reports that he was a real asshole. But look, if a guy really wants to be a Flyer, I love that. I want a guy. I want a guy that wants to be on my team. I want you to want to be a Flyer, but it's still concerning. It's a risk, obviously, but I think
so I think the cost is already sunk when we drafted a player who isn't available for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean he's young.
If it doesn't pan out,
he's very young. It's not like we're getting when we do get him. He's 26. Like
he's what 17 now, 18.
18.
He turned 18 this year. He's available in his age 20 season.
Let's see. He is 19 currently. He turns 20 December 9th. So he's freshly 19. So we'll get him at 21. Still get plenty of
lots of tread on those.
Plenty of metal on those skates, if you will. No, we'll be getting plenty out of him. But really, I think it was worded best where the bigger risk would have been not drafting him. It was a risk drafting him, but the bigger risk would have been passing up.
Well, and looking at the rest of the people on that board, you would gamble, right? You're a gambler.
Yeah, I mean, Michkov was a second overall talent that fell due to draft or interview process being terrible and him being in Russia, obviously, with all the crap going on over there right now, and the questions and clouds surrounding if he's ever going to be able to make it over to the States.
Yeah.
That's the only reason he fell to 7. And so they had to pull the trigger on a guy that wanted to be a Flyer, that could be the next Ovechkin Russian goal scorer. Obviously really, not Ovechkin, but just that incredibly talented goal scorer out of Russia. So it'll be interesting to see. But I'm excited for 2 years from now to see what we have in him. Obviously, we're lacking a lot of consistent goal scorers. Konechny's having a great year this year, but we don't really have that year in, year out 30-plus goal scorer on this team.
No, we don't.
And so we need to have that. We need a guy that every year we can expect 35-plus. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a 35 every year kind of guy, and he worked his area.
That man was a Flyer.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, Wayne Simmons was the man.
Drew's clinging to it, but
he scored against us.
He did.
Easy. No, Wayne Simmons just freshly retired. Wish him nothing but happiness throughout his post NHL career. He was a true flyer through and through. He demanded respect. There's guys that plenty of clips of guys saying that they wanted to fight him, and other guys on the bench looking at me like, "You're not Wayne Simmons tough. You're tough.
Yeah,
you're not Wayne Simmons tough."
So, Jake, my ADHD brain is telling me to say this. Our next train of thought: jerseys. When we change jerseys, Flyers. I mean, I've worn 2 different ones in 1 week. I have a ton of them.
Oh yeah.
So, if you were to buy a jersey today, let's say that you buy an Airson jersey.
Okay.
And it's the current Flyers colors. They let it ride for 3 years. He becomes an all-star, whatever. Then they come out with a new jersey. Are you mad? Or are you okay with it? Because you have his rookie season jersey.
Yeah.
And that's better.
Yeah,
Or
I mean, if it's a good looking jersey, I really don't care. If they come out with a much sharper looking jersey, and I'm like, dang,
then you're pissed off.
I kind of need the better looking jersey.
Like that like all black with like the orange accents is kind of strong right now.
Yeah.
So I want one of those, but I'm not gonna buy it.
No, I mean, I love that they're embracing the early 2000s jerseys right now. I think that's a really good look. But again, that's not gonna be their permanent jersey. I mean, you see baseball, they use the jerseys, the same jerseys for forever. I mean, they switched from the powder blues and the maroon.
And with the NFL, they did their color rush for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And they were horrible. They sold a bunch of them. And,
the mustard and ketchup game when they out there with all reds and all yellows.
It was like Carolina powder blue versus like Seattle, like dark
neon,
blue.
or neon green. Like, no, it's not good.
So there's situations where you can change it, you can alter it. But Winter Classic, rank your Winter Classic jerseys. I know what your number one's going to be because we talked about this earlier.
Yeah, I mean, the number one is what, the 2020 Winter Classic one was the one?
No, it was 2016.
2016. Those were incredible.
But like, let's talk about 2017 or 2018 Leafs.
I mean, I don't know enough around the league of the jerseys for the Winter Classic to really get into all that.
But like getting those out there,
it's just a money grab. I mean, the more jerseys you have out there, the more jerseys people need to buy.
True, yeah.
More changes.
And are you okay with that? Or as like a fan, you want to see, like, you want to buy one jersey, and if it's a lot, like you're buying a Brian Dawkins jersey, you can wear that for the rest of your life. He's already in the Hall of Fame. You get the color, boom, done. Or like if they come out with a cool color, you buying a new one.
I mean, they're not going to make a new Brian Dawkins jersey.
I'm a sucker. I'm going to buy that Kelly Green Brian's Dawkins jersey.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of like, it's a fun topic, but like, I really don't care.
Oh.
As long as they look good, like, I don't care. If they're ugly, like and it's funny you bringing this up because obviously the reported Philadelphia Phillies City Connect jerseys were leaked today, and they're hideous. They look terrible.
Yeah.
They
look horrible.
They're nothing to do with the Phillies colors. They allegedly said that they were trying to go for the colors of like the Philadelphia state or city flag, and they really didn't even get those colors. The shade of blue was completely off. It's just a bluish jersey that says Philly on it. They look terrible. And I think only adding pants to them is going to make them even worse. So,
it's going to be horrible.
Yeah, it's awful. And there's so much potential. I mean, we've seen City Connect jerseys with the NBA and the Sixers that were pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Like the Boathouse Row jerseys, those look pretty cool. There's some jerseys that are really good looking, but these reported leaks of the Philly City Connect jerseys are just atrocious.
Well, and so not to throw it to an opposing city, but Washington had a really good one. The Nationals.
Yeah, the cherry blossoms.
The cherry. So they had
apparently they're retiring those. They're not going to use them anymore.
That's insane.
Yeah,
it's such a good
should be
jersey.
Their new jersey.
It's so simple. So it's a dark jersey, white emblem, and then cherry blossoms flowing through it.
Yeah,
that's all it has to be. You make a good jersey, you sell that.
Yeah, you know what this jersey reminds me of? The Phillies one, the City Connect one, reminds me of a men's league softball jersey.
Ugh,
it really does.
Can't do it, man.
It reminds me of a men's league softball jersey where there's no buttons. It's just like that quick wick, material
Yeah, it's just
thrown
like,
over. Like it just looks
man,
cheap.
I hate
It looks like you're waiting.
Remember when the Sixers did the so they had like it was not the Philo one, but they like spelled Philo with the rainbow buildings, and it just looked weird.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. And I'm not saying
I don't know
that we
who
can't
designed it, but it's
experiment
bad.
and like see what sticks. But if you're putting a jersey in a shop, you need to make sure that people want it.
Yeah.
Right? Like this one, and I've been very clear. This is my favorite 0607.
Yeah, the burnt orange.
It's beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
I
the
got the
silver
check monic
lining.
on. I have the brochure somewhere in the
Well,
house, but
almost all hockey jerseys are great.
yeah.
Like you point me to an ugly hockey jersey.
I
NHL
can point
jersey.
you to a couple of. You want the Jeff Carter All-Star jersey?
Well, no, but that's every All-Star year the jerseys stink.
Yeah.
I'm saying
that's a big thing that they need to read.
Yeah, I'm saying like the team jerseys for the most part, they're good looking jerseys.
Yeah. But yeah, we aren't in charge of jersey sales and marketing.
We are not.
So
we are not.
They don't really listen to fans. That's the problem. No. Throwing it on the piggyback here. How many games next year do you want them to wear Kelly green?
Every home game.
Make
it their new home uniform.
No.
Every home game, new home uniform.
Hard
and
no.
The Midnights are the alternate.
Nope, you're a hard piece of shit.
Nope.
We're not wearing Kelly greens.
I would love for them to.
No.
Embrace it. Dive right in.
No.
Why not?
No.
You don't like the Kelly greens?
I love them.
Then why not make them your new home jerseys?
Because it's going to lose its value.
Oh,
man.
stop. They look so sharp.
They don't.
All right. 4 home games. Is that too many?
Yes.
What do you want?
I want 2.
Yeah, that's what they had this year.
And then we won both.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Dolphins and what was the other one? And
Dolphins and Bills.
Dolphins and Bills.
We won them both.
We did win them both.
2 tough teams, 2 tough games. Got the crowd into it. We're bringing this back. But, I mean, the midnight green is so good. Black against midnight green. You've seen those.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful.
No, they're good. They're good looking jerseys, but those Kelly greens are just clean. They
They
are just clean.
The white with the Kelly green number, though.
And what I want to see them bring is bring back the away Kelly greens. Exactly, the white.
Exactly. That I'm okay with that.
What, as being the permanent away jersey?
Yeah, sure.
You can't have midnight green home and white Kelly green away.
Why not?
Because it just doesn't work.
He's a billionaire. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Of course he can.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I think we're about winding her down. But yeah, shout out to Big Oyster.
Big Oyster, yeah, thank you.
Delicious Hammerhead IPAs.
Sponsor us, please.
Shout out to Delaware Orthopedic Specialist and Dr. Mesa for his time and his insight.
Yeah, Dr. Mesa is awesome. Delaware Orthopedic. If you get a chance, if you need a surgery, I hope you don't have to have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we wish you nothing but health and pain-free life.
Go
but
with
if you
Delaware
do need to go
Orthopedic.
there, if you do need surgery, Delaware Orthopedic Specialist and Dr. Mesa is where to go. Bill, it's always a pleasure.
Sir, it's been fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's been real.
It's been real fun.
It's been real fun.
See you, everybody.